we can't stop and assess how great we are because we fighting. So you fighting everybody. So you have no time to look at yourself. 3, we are content with complaining about what we ain't changing. And we talk about it over wine and cake and fried foods and martinis on a weekend. Like, so you have commonality in what you're complaining about, but you're not doing anything differently by seeking wise counsel from other people who are neutral, who won't judge you in your brokenness.
Welcome to Becoming with Angelina Watkins, where we are turning dreamers into believers and doers through open and transparent stories and lives of those who have overcome adversity to walk in their purpose, achieve success, and live a life fulfilled on their terms. Candid conversations with women and men from all walks of life, giving us a fresh perspective and the blueprint on how to win at love, life, and money. And I'm your host, Angelina Watkins. And in this episode, I'm so excited. We have Christy Rutherford with us. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Christy, she has a nice little resume here. We're a graduate of Harvard University. You're an international executive leadership coach and business advisor. And so I really can't wait to dive into what you do and how you help women. But before we get into that, I like to just kind of go back and let people know. Tell us, what was it like growing up as Christy Rutherford?
I was thinking about that this morning before you even asked the question. I talked a lot. I always got in trouble in school because I was a brilliant kid, and I think faster and I move faster than most people. And so I got in trouble for my gifts. And so when you think about children who think differently and we calculate differently, and I'm a macro level thinker, I would have been considered an average kid, but I was super brilliant. And I think that in the education system, they downplay because I was told a lot, you won't amount to much. And that would make me mad because I know that I'm meant to be greater. You know, even as a young kid, I knew that I would be wealthy, period. Ooh. And I think that maybe we all have that. And at a certain point, we let it go because people condemn our gifts. People tell us that what we're carrying and who we really are, the world has no room for it, as opposed to allowing us to embrace our differences and say that's your greatest strength, as opposed to condemning it and saying you're a troublemaker and you won't be anybody. That's pretty much what it was.
I have a question though, because you said you were a macro thinker. And sometimes I find for myself, I'm a macro thinker. I think big, I see big picture. And then I also, and I want to know from you, was that ever, even though it is a beautiful thing, sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it can be a curse. Was it ever a time where being a macro thinker was something that was getting in your way? Because sometimes I feel like as a macro thinker, when I think big and I see big, I go for big, and then I forget the process and I skip some steps, and then I find myself having to go back. Did you ever find like that was sometimes an issue being a macro thinker?
I think macro level thinkers is communication, right? In leadership, I was the person who was always doing 10 things at the same time. I had an unlimited budget and I had a team. That was great when I had a job, when I became an entrepreneur. Now it's a problem because I want to do 10 things at the same time. And so I always talk about the vision, right? Like the time that passes in vision, I'm pulling taffy because I think in pictures. The further you go apart, the bigger the dip is in the middle. Can you handle the dip? Does that make sense? Like, can you see, and being a visionary, and TD Jakes talks about it, is a blessing and a curse because you can see what's supposed to happen. It's the time factor. And can you stay motivated when you're in the lag timer, when you're going down to be able to come back up to the top? So it's, what I've learned now as an entrepreneur, I have to surround myself with people who think in details. I don't think in details. I can, but it creates pain for me. So in order for me to operate at my best, I need to be able to embrace my gifts and not look at it as a weakness, embrace my gifts and not look at it as something wrong with me, but then surround myself with people who think in detail and want to plan out the calendar for next year. And I'm a 2-week person talking about, why are we talking about March? I don't care.
So what do you tell that person who, well, I say tell that person, but tell me, tell me, because
Yeah.
I think I'm there sometimes where I have all of these visions and, I have all these things. And sometimes I think the macro thing is I have to get to where I am finishing what I started.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I started it, I implemented, seeing it all the way through, because of that time factor sometimes becomes a pain point, like you just described. And it's, how do you ride that through? How do you ride that transition? And so I'm hearing you say you got to make sure you have the right people around you. But how do you find the right people around you? Because you said as an entrepreneur, sometimes starting out, you're kind of like in it by yourself, solopreneur. You don't know who you can trust. You don't know who you can use. Everybody wants to get paid and you may not have that money right now. So just finding those people who can support that so that you can get further.
So what's interesting about what you're talking about is I wasn't that patient. That's one. So it's two things. And we can talk about this for the next 30 minutes, but the problem with being visionaries is that we can see it all the way through, but we'll get frustrated in the middle and most people quit. And so over time, what I've learned is I got businesses that I mean, two things. Abraham Hicks says something like, just because you get an idea doesn't mean that it has to be done now. And I had to learn that. So I write it down
too. Yes. Oh my God. That was bad for me. I was bad at that. Go ahead.
Yeah. But then the thing about it is you can't, the hardest thing about brilliant women is that we want to do 10 things at the same time. You can't light 10 candles, with the same amount of fire at the same time. So the hardest thing to do is to come into alignment with the one, which Wallace D. Wattles talks about in The Science of Getting Rich, the one in which you're best suited. You will get rich in an area in which you are best suited, which you already have the experience in. So yeah, and I was not trying to be a coach or a leadership development trainer or a leadership development expert when I first left my career. I was trying to sell I'm selling coffee. Then I started selling personality tests. And it took about 4 years for me to get excited and say, oh my God, I'm going to be an executive coach and a leadership development trainer. And my friends were like, no ish, Christy, that's who you are. Like, why are you excited? So it's when I started to get into alignment with who I was meant to be and agree with it, and then ride it until the wheels come off. And so, and I have coaches who have to tell me to, Chrissy, just do one thing. And once you get that one lit, now you can move on to the other things. But the hardest thing for us to do is to stay on that one path. And with Superman was blowing stuff up, his 2 rays that came out of his eyes became one. Boom. So he would stare at something until it exploded. We're chasing rabbits. We're like, car. We're doing all these other kind of things and chasing the shiny object, as opposed to saying, you know what, I'm going to anchor into this and I'm going to ride it. But don't ride a failing horse too long. But if it's something that you can really see and it's who you're meant to be, you just have to do it and pay attention and hold a vision.
So I'm getting totally ahead of myself. But you said that when you were growing up, you had a lot of gifts. And so with those gifts, how did you determine, because it sounds to me like you have multiple, which most people do. How did you determine which of the gifts that you should hone in on? How did you make that decision?
You mean hone in to be an entrepreneur? Obedience. Mike Murdoch in in one of his books, he talks about God will use provision as motivation to get into alignment with the law of obedience. I wasn't trying to talk to women. I wasn't trying to do what I'm doing right now. Please, because that means that I had to tell my story and I didn't want to. I didn't want to talk about the challenges that women experience in the workplace. I didn't want to talk about my story and how I fell apart, because we are ahead of ourselves, which is cool, right? We'll go back. I didn't want to tell it. I didn't want to tell it. And I wasn't making no money. Even though I knew, Angelina, that this is who I'm supposed to talk to, even though I knew it, I would get coaches, marketing coaches and coaches to tell me, and what to do, give me advice, because I ain't making no money, and I'm investing all this money, and I would write down my avatar. I could see the woman that I was supposed to talk to, and I'd be like, this, I ain't doing that. Nope. So I would try to go out and do something else. And once I put women's in front of my name, because I thought women's was limiting, because most people, you say women's leadership coach or women's whatever for marketing because it converts 80% higher. I didn't want to do that. I don't do trickery. But even though God was telling me go do it, I was like, I ain't trying to do that. But the day after I put women's in front of my name, I got a $5,000 keynote the next day. So that was like, and so then 18 months later, I started working with another coach. She's like, Christy, I don't want you to just talk to women, because my money was cool, but he was doing this. It wasn't touching the whole time, and it wasn't like touching now. Now we can do this. Back in the day, it was like tension. You'd be like, pow, it would come at me. And I took it. I removed women from in front of my name. And then 4 months later, I was looking back. I'm like, Christy, what did you do? Because you're not getting any new money. I didn't get any sales after that for 4 months, but I had recurring payments. And when I stopped in December, I said, what did you do? Like, what did you do? And I took it from in front of my name. And when I put it back, the next day, I got an $8,000 client paid in full. So
wow.
Sometimes, like I said, God will use money as a motivator to get into alignment with the law of obedience of who you're supposed to be. And so now people think that, oh, Christy, you tell all your business in these streets. You on LinkedIn and Facebook singing like canary about your life. It's because it's not about me, Angelina. It's like how now that we're $11 million in raises in a pandemic, how selfish was I not to be able to, or not willing to share my story to be able to impact other women. So it's not about me. It's about other people now.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that because I want to talk about this, not telling your story, why you decided to tell your story. But we're going to come back to that because I think the other part of the conversation will probably lead to that. But I have to tell you, oh my God, every time I interview someone, you are giving me confirmation of being obedient.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Because when you talk about putting women in front of that, like I help women, my coaching is for women. And the question becomes, which type of women am I wanting to help? Because in my story that I talk about in separate podcasts, there was phases to me becoming a coach. Mm-hmm. There was phases to me becoming who I was supposed to be and obeying God for my purpose. And it's like, which phase do you want? And I think, and I was kind of like focusing on these different phases until I finally figured out this is the phase where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And it came out in a coaching session that I need to put women in front of there. Mm-hmm. And, you need to work with women in leadership because that is where my people are. Mm-hmm. And I just was kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to do corporate. But then as they're talking, I'm like, man, has God been telling me this all the time? And I ain't been listening. I ain't been obedient because now that they're saying these things, all of these other pieces of the puzzle, all of these other things that were said are now popping up like, oh, dang, I remember when so-and-so said that. Ooh, dang, I remember when so-and-so said that. Was I just not listening? Was I not getting it? And now it's all coming together. And so now you're like giving me confirmation as to why I need to put that woman in there so that they know I'm talking to a specific type of woman that fits this phase that I was in. I was where you are. I'm feeling you, but I don't know why I was trying to avoid it. Yeah. I don't know why I was trying to avoid it, but let's go back. So you had some adversity, right? So we're already growing up with this being a macro thinker. These folks is telling you, you won't amount to anything. Yeah. But you end up at Harvard. How does that happen?
Is this are you going to edit this or are we going to go straight through? Are you editing?
We're going to go straight through. No edits.
Okay. Cause I need to turn my fan up. Hold on. I live in the Bahamas. Hold on. Y'all give me 30 seconds. I'm sorry.
I'll go right ahead.
Girl, I live in the Bahamas. I'm sweating. Okay.
Y'all, we is really got to get into this. I can't wait. Okay. I can't wait.
All right, here we go. Otherwise, I'll be on here sweating like a prosperity preacher. Y'all be like, "What's wrong with that lady?" You be like, "Oh my God, 40 something." So what was your question again? Let's get back to it.
How do we go from a student who's average, but you
Oh,
know you're brilliant? They're telling you you're not going to amount to anything, but you end up at Harvard.
so I actually went to South Carolina State when I that was my undergrad. So I went to an HBCU. We partied. It was awesome. It was great. And so Harvard was 2016. So I did the executive education program, and you have to be a rock star. It's 186 people from 45 countries. So Harvard in the executive education part was really about demonstrated results. So it was proving people wrong. It was tenacity. It was doing what I needed to do in my career and getting and I don't think it was necessarily the necessary degrees, because the program that we got in was not only about results that we've achieved as opposed to academic excellence, but it was the results, and there was also character. So the program director was looking for people who had that special spark, and you put us all in together in a room, and there's fire. So it was the conversation that we had about how I felt about myself. I was the only African American woman in the cohort of 186 people, but my background and what I had achieved up to that point in my career played a large part of me getting into Harvard.
So Harvard, you leave Harvard and you do what? You go to work where?
So I actually joined the Coast Guard while I was in college. So it's the U.S. Coast Guard. It was when I graduated from college, I went in the Coast Guard, chased drug runners in the Caribbean for 2 years. Then I moved around. I ended up working on Capitol Hill with Elijah Cummings. A couple of years before that, I ended up responding to the needs of the citizens in New Orleans at Hurricane Katrina. So we were there 2 days after Katrina. So South Carolina State was my launching pad into my career, where then I got the MBA, then I got the pastry certification in Houston, and then I got the certified executive leadership coaching certification from Georgetown University. And I got that when I worked on Capitol Hill, and I resigned from my career in 2012. Crazy in the two left shoes. I ran away like Tina Turner ran from Ike in that white suit. And I really burned myself out because I was working 80 hours a week. I was working 3 times as hard as the men to get half the results. I was in the watch me and I'll prove you wrong. And so to be one of 50 or so Black female officers out of 47,000 people, when I walk in the room, you haven't really seen another Black woman, one, in the Coast Guard. You haven't seen a Black woman officer. And in most cases, they hadn't seen a Black woman officer who outranked them. So now we really get into the challenges that we experienced in the workplace as Black women. And I think for a large part, as first generation students, I was one of the first people in my family to go to college. We're not prepared for the conflict that we're going to meet when it comes to how we show up at work. And what I've learned is women who are lawyers, doctors, accountants, financial planners, it doesn't matter which industry that we're in. If you're an ambitious, strong Black woman, you're going to meet challenges. And so what I teach women is, how do you now overcome those challenges, or not react to those challenges, or not react to petty people, and not work yourself to death and still get your money? So
what are some challenges that they meet?
That we meet when we get in the workplace? People who got a year experience and a certificate in typewriting think they're better than us with an MBA and a PhD. 1. 2, people tell you that you don't belong. I was told in my face, you don't belong here, and you'll never amount to much. You won't be anybody.
Now, is this in the Coast Guards or is this in corporate America?
So I was in the Coast Guard. I spent all of my career in the Coast Guard.
Okay, so you were a leader in doing executive leadership in the Coast Guards. Okay.
Yeah, Harvard really prepared me and gave me the language of corporate so I could merge the two. Does that make sense? Like, because military people speak completely different than corporate people. So that's what it gave me the opportunity to do. So I work with corporate women because the challenges are the same. It doesn't matter. People are people. It doesn't matter which profession that they chose. And so we're taught that. But I think the biggest part, Angelina, is we're accustomed to telling people, watch me, and we'll prove you wrong. That's how we get in trouble, because we started proving people wrong and the watch me long before we got to work. The job is just a culmination of what we've been fighting our whole lives. Like we were fighting people in elementary school who told us that we wouldn't amount to much. We were fighting people in, middle school and high school who told us that we wouldn't amount to much. So by the time you get a job, it's the same conversation. And we'll say, pause right there. I'm going to come back to you. And we go out and we conquer, and then we come back and we never stop fighting. And the cycle of fighting and never, we never feel like we're enough. We never feel like we've achieved enough because no one will ever give us our gold star. They will never validate you. So we lose the ability to be able to validate ourselves because we place that into the hands of other people. And now we have this fight club energy and wonder why the doors to executive leadership are locked to us. It's because we're fighting. We're not happy. We're miserable. We're overworked and we're undervalued. And they lock the door because don't nobody want to open the door to an angry woman. They be like, keep her out. We don't want her in this room. So now we're creating the very circumstance that is creating the barrier to our next level of success. So at a certain point, what I assist my clients with doing is we got to break that cycle of that fight club energy. We got to get out of being angry. We got to get out of being resentful because that's the very same thing that's keeping us from getting to the next level. We have to stop working 5 times as hard and getting all these degrees because what we're doing to be promoted makes us unpromotable because we don't have the capacity to go to the next level because we burned down and stressed out and crazy now. So then they'll look at that and say, you know what? Angelina's a little tired. She's worn down and she's crazy. So she can't handle additional responsibility. So they go over and give it to the man who ain't doing 20% of what you're doing because he can handle additional responsibility. And we watch it. Then we get mad. Then that creates the barrier. Then we work harder, which then creates them saying she's about to lose it. We can't promote her. We're going to go over here and promote the lazy woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're caught in that loop. That's what I do is break that loop of expectations by getting women clear on where they are, where they want to go, and exactly how they're showing up.
So you're talking and we have the good old boys club, right? We've already got the battle with the men, but have you seen in corporate America or even in the Coast Guards, but just in leadership period, the good old girls club and having to just fight that barrier as well? When you just have that group of people who are already aligned and it's like, I cannot infiltrate this clique at work to be able to get up.
So the problem with trying to integrate into the clique, and it depends on where you are in leadership, right? Mm-hmm. The problem that I see in women who have about 15, 20 years of experience is we're trying to infiltrate the clique by trying to be like them and not like ourselves. So we're trying to infiltrate the clique by pretending to be somebody that we're not, and now we're not being authentic to who we are. That doesn't work at a certain point. Mm-hmm. So when my clients come back to self, they stop playing these stupid games. They're not angry anymore. They start to meditate and work out. So they're getting their confidence in order. Everything, Angelina, starts with the woman in the mirror. And we're always looking for other people to let us into the clique. Well, once you get clear on who you are, man, they sling the door open and welcome you in. They roll the red carpet out and be like this. You want to come in here? Because you're operating in the oneness and the wholeness of who you are. And your eye ain't twitching when you say something to them.
So do you ever have women who come to know who they are and then they realize I don't even want to be there? Because I think that was me. I there was a point in my life, in my career, where I was trying to move up. I was having a hard time moving up. And so there was an open position for a manager. I wasn't even really sure that I wanted to be a manager, but the director comes to me that's hiring and says, I want you to apply. I think you should apply. So I applied for the job, have the interview. I think it went well. I didn't get the job. So, and so then what happens is I go back, because it's always suggested you go back and find out why they didn't pick you. What is it that you need to work on so that you can work on those things for the future? So when I went to go inquire about what was it that, why I didn't get hired, the lady just tore me down. She tore me up. She told me I was not business savvy. She told me I didn't know how to build relationships. She told me I wasn't a leader. Like, I'm sitting in this cubicle Like, really? She just tore me up. And so my feelings were hurt. And I walk out this cubicle, and as I'm going up the elevator and back to my desk, I guess I have this self-talk where I realize I don't care what you said. You're not going to tell me what I am not. I don't went to school for organizational leadership. I've been in leadership roles for decades. I have built business relationships with the people here at work in order to get things done quickly. I am very business savvy. How dare you tell me I'm not this? And so at that point, I'm like, I don't even want to work with y'all anyway. So that, I think that was part of my discovery of who I am. And then as I really began to know who I am, I realized I don't want to be there anyway. I don't want to work with y'all. I don't want to be part of that clique. I don't want to infiltrate. I don't even want to do this. I want to do something totally different. And I just totally went a different way. So do you find women who end up getting to know themselves and realize, I don't even want to be here?
That's a loaded question on your podcast, because I can dismantle everything that you just talked about. I won't do you like
dismantle
that.
Dismantle it.
Because it's gonna be ugly. These typical private conversations be like this. What? One, you didn't
listen, we're supposed to have candid conversations.
But listen, you didn't want the job.
True.
So Angelina, you go in there, you just checking the box. You don't have no passion. You didn't want the job. Like, you was like, I ain't even want the job, but they say I'm gonna be in there, so I'm gonna sit in the room. You answering the questions. You got somebody's like this. Hey, I'm gonna come in here and kill it. And this is what I've been wanting to do my whole life. And I prepared for this position for the past 5 years. And I've checked this box and this box and this box, and I've studied it. And I want to come in here and I want to help you solve these problems. And hey, if you just pick me, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. As opposed to you being in the room, you be like, yes, this is what I've done. I've got a master's degree in organizational development. I've led teams of 15. I've da. You have no passion. You didn't even want it. So as you're sitting in there, they're comparing you. Why is my phone ringing? Girl, hold on. My phone don't even ring like that. So they're comparing you to the people that they've seen that have passion. And that's why you got ate up. You didn't even want it, and you sitting in the room wasting their time. That's one, right?
Wow. Okay, I receive it.
I receive it. So business savvy is you didn't even prepare to connect with the people in the room before you even got in the room. Business savvy is when you know who the decision makers are going to be, and you go build a relationship not only with the decision makers, but the decision makers' friends, so they pump you up before you even get there. The decision is really made before you get in the room with who they want. So Is that 90% of people in leadership play by one rule book, 10% play by the other one. So I have a friend, and we talk about it all the time. In the Coast Guard, some of the jobs, like the good jobs, like the special jobs, like the highly sought after jobs, are negotiated 3 years before the list even come out of you to choose from. And so if you're looking at the list, the month in October, say, you know what, I think I'm gonna pick these 5 jobs. 3 of them already was gone 3 years ago. So there is something that you have to do before you even get in the room. Like, there is preparation. That's what she was talking about. Like, nobody said Angelina's name. Nobody was advocating on your behalf for this job, and you didn't even set it up with the director that told you to apply for it. You should have been like, all right, well, who are the decision makers? Who do I need to talk to?
She was the decision maker.
But you didn't. But nobody came to her outside of that. Does that make sense?
So it does. So,
yeah, that's what we're missing in the relationships is, and me and my friend were talking like 2 weeks ago, and we're talking about a job. And I was like, if people don't understand, 5 people done already called to one person for this other person to get the job. And if you don't have nobody calling for you, it's over. That's what she was talking about.
Okay. Okay.
So don't be mad. Don't be mad.
Oh, well, I'm cool now, but I see it. I see what you're saying. And I have to agree. I'm not even going to disagree, because that has been my attitude. It really has. And I have to really go back and think about that, because I could probably think of some other situations where, I've just kind of had a whatever nonchalant, type of attitude. And it's probably because I really don't want it. Like
So
it
you didn't
doesn't.
get it. And then you got mad because you didn't get what you didn't want. Like that's, does that make sense? Like and then you get madder. So by the
I
time
was
you go
mad.
to the,
I was
I'm just
mad.
saying, by the time you go to the third one, you don't even expect to get it. You mad walking in the room, talking in your head. So I can't stand y'all MFS anyway. I really don't even want to be here. I know y'all gonna give it to you. Y'all might as well give it. Y'all wasting my time. They can hear all of that. Like they can feel all of that energy coming off of you. And then when you don't get it, you get mad again. And then I mean so this is the thing, Angelina. That's the work that I do. I don't talk about how, oh my God, Black women should be in the room and they should open the door for us. All I do is go to the Black woman and be like this. What you doing is keeping the door locked. Does that make sense? Like,
It
because
does.
if you can get clarity on it, or a bigger thing, what we do, I was talking to a lady last Saturday, and she was talking about, I was doing a one-day event about how she never asked for a raise. And now she's pissed off and gonna quit because she never got it. She kept working. She never asked. And she did this like every 3 to 5 years. She would quit a job because they didn't give her what she didn't ask for. And so when she was in there with the boss, she was quitting, he was like, look, like, we will keep you, but you need to ask for what you want. We will match whatever salary somebody's going to give you when you walk out the door. We'll match it. She said, but I was so puffed up in my ego, mad, that she couldn't even hear what he was saying. And only after she got smashed in the ground, because I did it. Everything that I'm talking about, and I'm not, tap dancing on your forehead because this is something I used to do it. That's how I know the game. I did it. And I lost. But I also gained so much because now that's a part of my purpose. That's a part of my mission. Is like, man, one of my clients texted me yesterday and said, somebody asked her, what do we need to do? How much do we need to pay you to get you here? She said 500,000. She said, I ain't even blink. Thank you. Right? We've tripled 3 women's salaries in the past week and a half, from $235,000 to $675,000. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. That happens, Angelina, when a woman can actually stop long enough to look at herself, one, to own how great she is. Amazing. Like, we don't know how great we are because we tired. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
We can't stop and assess how great we are because we fighting. So you fighting everybody. So you have no time to look at yourself. 3, we are content with complaining about what we ain't changing. And we talk about it over wine and cake and fried foods and martinis on a weekend. Like, so you have commonality in what you're complaining about, but you're not doing anything differently by seeking wise counsel from other people who are neutral, who won't judge you in your brokenness, who won't judge you in your fight club energy. So it's just time to start. So my goal is to have a different conversation. Let's talk about what's really going on. Let's talk about the real stuff that's going on. So I'm having a good time over here. We have a good time.
So what did you lose? Because you said you lost and then you gained. So what did you lose and then what did you gain?
So I left my career with 3.5 years left to retire with a full pension. I would have retired in 2016 with a check, a delicious government check that would have lasted forever. And I left in 2012. So I didn't finish the race. I collapsed, just like if you see the track people who are running 400, we look at the sisters who come out the gates and come out the blocks real fast in the beginning. Like, they running. By the time they hit that corner, we say the monkey jump on their back and then they slow down. I collapsed. Just come drag me off the field. And so, I burned out, and it was catastrophic, and it was awful. And I lost my mind. Then I lost my money. And so I moved in with my brother for 3.5 years. So crazy, because I knew that I wasn't whole, and I had been offered about 20 jobs, but I knew that I was psychologically unemployable. I couldn't have nobody telling me what to do. It wasn't going to make it. And so what I gained was I can deconstruct the mindset of exactly what we do and how we are leaving money on the table, millions. I mean, we're at $11 million since last June. We coming for all our money now. But what I really want women to get from the work that we do is we've saved 18 marriages, because women get puffed up in their egos and their marriages. I'd be like, some women would rather leave their husband and leave their job. We've stopped 6 women from dying and having nervous breakdowns. Like,
why would we rather leave our husband than our job?
Because some men telling their wives that y'all work too much and you have no time for them. So they get offended.
So why are we working so much?
Because we're trying to prove people wrong. We're trying to prove people wrong. We're trying to prove that we made it. We're trying to prove that we belong here. We're trying to check the box and see me, I'm over here working. See me, I'm over here getting these degrees. And we're so focused on getting to the thing as a visionary that you can see that you don't see the calamities that you're creating along the way. Like, you don't see the self-destruction that you're creating along the way. And once we check that box, Angelina, we focused on the next one. We're not even going to sit there and celebrate. Get the master's degree, take the picture, ching. Okay, what's next? Does that make sense? Like, always focused on
I've had to heal from that.
Yeah.
It's still a journey.
That's the problem. So we're doing the same thing. So you have men that are like, and I had a client where she talked about how her and her husband used to argue every day. She was calling him MFA when we got on the phone, right? And so, okay, great. And so after a while, probably about 3 months, she said they hadn't had an argument, which is abnormal. I said, okay, when is the last time consecutively? How many consecutive days have y'all not argued? 30 days. How long has it been since y'all ain't argued in 30 consecutive days? She was like, 15 years. I said, go thank that man for staying with your crazy ass, right? Like, that's one. And here's the thing. She was mad because he said, I don't care if you become the CEO of that company. And this is the thing. So let's work the math, Angelina. I wish I had a pie chart. If they've been married for a while, so they were married when she was entry level. So he got 90%, the job got 10. She got promoted. He had 70, they had 30. She got promoted again. He had 50, they had 50. Got promoted again. Now he has 10, she got 90. I mean, he has 10%, the job has 90% of her time and attention because she travels all the time. Mm-hmm. If she gets promoted again, that's why he don't want her to get promoted. And we were like, oh my God, my man don't want me to make more money than him. He's putting a barrier in my success. He don't want me to be more successful than him. If you get promoted one more time, he gets 0, they get 100. That's the problem. Oh, wow. That's the problem. Like, if y'all have been in it for the long haul, he stayed. And I was like, thank that man for what you do. Yeah, because all men don't stay. A lot of them leave. And I'll say this and I'll move on, because this is actually one of my coaches one of my clients is gonna talk about this whenever she, gets on the other side of whatever she's doing and gets into alignment who she's meant to be. Like, when a man is telling you, I want to spend more time with you, we too busy arguing with Becky and Tina at work. By the time you get home, you be like, you ain't getting none. You think you're gonna get something tonight? I'm tired. The next day, I'm tired. You've been tired and angry for 6 months. You're not giving it up. You're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, mm-hmm. You're not being intimate because you're on fire and enraged. You're not being intimate with the man when he's telling you. Does that make sense? Like,
it does. It does. Conversation. Different perspectives. He's trying to tell you what he needs, what he wants, and we're not seeing it.
Ain't hearing nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you trying to get some? And 3 years have passed by and he gone. And we don't
understand why.
And you a victim again.
So you are staying with your brother for 3 years. How did you turn it around?
I had to heal. First.
What did you do to heal? Because you obviously are recognizing that you need to heal. You recognize I'm burnt out, I'm stressed, and I can't even go work another job. I got to work on me. So what did you do?
So the healing wasn't necessarily like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out and I'm crazy. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to heal and I'm going to get better and then I'm going to be greater for the world. No, girl, I ain't had no money. That's insane. Like, I sold my car. I didn't want to sell my car. I love my Camaro. But either I was going to sell it or they were going to come get it. So things were being stripped away from me in the physical realm that I identified my identity to. And I was working 12 to 16 hours a day to get out of my brother's house. So this was when I finally recognized where I was, it's almost like, you know how you're like, and we're in Fiji and we run off of this large cliff and then we come all the way down and we dive and then we hit the water. I was at the bottom of the ocean. I had to climb out of the water, then climb up the mountain to get back up. So it was, Napoleon Hill says, if I had the courage to look in the mirror and see myself as I truly am, right? If I had the courage to look in the mirror and see myself as I truly am, not who my degrees say I am, not who my title says that I am, because I was awesome, not who my brand that I've created in this organization says that I am. I'm the 13th Black woman to make commander in the Coast Guard's history. So I was pretty awesome. I'm mentoring 90 people. So if I had the courage to look in the mirror to see myself as I truly am, then I will find out what is wrong with me and fix it, as opposed to building alibis to cover my misfortunes. I was building alibis. They should be responsible for my stress. They should be responsible for writing a policy for these men to leave me alone. They should be responsible for writing diversity policy so, they can understand what diversity really means and be able to welcome us with open arms. And they, he, she. And when you're alone in your brother's house with no money and you crazy, you got a lot of time to think about all the things that you did wrong over the 15-year career. And so I could have easily said that my boss was the one, because that's what people still think to this day, that my boss ran me out of organization. No, he was the match. He was the match that came. My forest was on fire before he even got there. He just became the one match. Boom! It all blew up. It's like, it wasn't him.
He was the cherry on top.
He was the last part. And so it took a long time and a lot of money. I don't even know how I had that money. I went to a lot of conferences. I invested a lot of money listening to other high achieving leaders. I went to a lot of camps. I ate a lot of donuts and ice cream. And I watched a lot of videos, right, on YouTube of T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, Earl Nightingale, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, and Oprah and Maya Angelou. And this is what I found. Most highly successful people, we've all had a moment, even Eckhart Tolle and Gary Zumkov, and we've all had a moment where we fell down into the bottom of the hole. It's a part of the journey, and then we awaken to our other self, is what Napoleon Hill talks about. Like, typically it takes desperation and trauma to get us to stop long enough to be able to awaken to our other selves. And so now what are you going to do? Most people die in their pain. A very small percentage of people will use that pain and be able to rise out of the ashes to be greater for other people. And so once I got to a point where I was healed enough, but the slate was wiped clean, because like the Bible says, I built my house on sand, it got washed away. Now I got to build my house on rock. Then I had to get the coach to now be able to help me structure how do I actually build a business, even though I didn't listen to him. Then that's how I got into Harvard, Angelina, was God had wiped the slate clean of who I thought I was. Now I forgot. So now I'm embarrassed because I'm ashamed because I burned out, lost my mind. So when I ended up getting into Harvard, I'm like a white sheet of paper. I would say a brown sheet of paper, caramel. But so my method of leadership is modeling. So when I saw other high achievers, it can't be 185 high achievers and one loser in the room.
Right.
So being able to look at them, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to do that. All right, great. Paint that on my canvas. Oh yes, I used to do that. So it gave me the capacity to stop looking at the ugliness of what I had seen of myself and now start to look at the great things that I had done and accomplished. So Harvard helped me remember, who I used to be, because I was great, but now created consciously, knowing that it is not all bad and we can hold on to the fire and burn in HELL, or we can pick up some of the good bricks and build the new house. There are diamonds in the rubble, all right, so what were the good things? So I can cry in the ashes and the dry bones, or I can go pick up the good things and say, okay, so I'm gonna create my house with this stuff. And so it took a long time. And I needed to burn out and run out of money and go crazy and leave my brother's house for my story to be what it is right now. I don't recommend that to every other people, which is why I'm committed and I'm so passionate about what I do to catch women before they fall off. You be like, whoop, come on back over here. Let's figure out. High achieving women, we do the exact same things. No matter where we're from, country of origin, I got women around the world. We do the exact same thing. So I try to get women when they're on the edge, and I catch some women on the way down and be like this, come on over here, let's go. So you don't have to do the same things. We shouldn't have to repeat history. And that's why I'm passionate about what I do. And that's why I'm successful at what I do, because there is no lie. I did it, and I'm not judgmental for high achieving women who are broken and secretly crazy, because I was broken and secretly crazy. And we need compassion and not judgment.
So is it easier to work with a woman who has not yet gone all the way down, or with the woman who's already down? Is there a difference in how they have to be coached?
I think it's a willingness to be able to tell the truth about where you are. That's the hardest thing that we do. I work with high achieving women. It's like wrestling lionesses wrestling another lioness. And so it's how fast are you willing to tell the truth about how you really see yourself? And as soon as you can see what we're really doing and not hide it, because I work with high achieving women who have strong brands. Ain't no way. There is a conflict between who you show up to be and who talks to you at night before you go to bed. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you could really look at how you really view yourself, and I think it's about the third week when women are like, holy SHIT, right? Because all we're doing, Angelina, is peeling the layer back and peeling it back and peeling it back, and they be like, oh my God. And I'll be like this, great, let's start there. Because now let's start at the truth. Not all the lies, not all the Gucci, not all the Prada and the Chanel and all this bougie stuff, all the brand that you created to tell the world how great you are. Let's get to how you really see yourself and what the truth is. Now let's
build
start
that up.
So let's start here. Yeah.
So I like this. This came to me the other day, which is that there are phases to becoming who you were supposed to be. So there's the becoming phase where the world, the society, your family, your education system, it has created who you are, which is that woman you're describing, that person we want to put out in the forefront, that person that we want you to think that we are. And then you have that phase where you now have to unbecome that, right? You have to unlearn some of these things. You got to come and get in that reality of who you really are, so you can get to the point of being who you really are, being who God really created you to be that person who is living life on their terms, who's living free, peaceful, confident, and you know your worth, right? And so you are working with women that they now have to unbecome and be accountable for who they are. How hard is it? Is it for them? How hard is it for them to unbecome? You said in your third week, they're like, holy smokes. Like what? But once they have that epiphany of holy smokes, how easy is it for them to start really grasping and being accountable and responsible for what they have been, and saying, you know what, I'm really going to make this change? Do you find that you have more of the ladies who are ready and do it, or do you have a small percentage that really is ready and willing to do it?
Most women are ready because they showed up with their investment.
Got you.
Okay. Christy Rutherford.
But some people invest and don't do what they're supposed to do. Do you ever have those?
We come with a premium price tag. So you're gonna get a result. They be like this. Oh no, I ain't invest this much money, and I'm not gonna get what I came for. So a lot of women invest, and this is the thing. I had a trainer who had a $97 program and then a $2,500 program. $97 wasn't gonna make me get out of bed at 6 o'clock and go running. It was not gonna make me finish the, eat the freaking chickpeas and the black beans and the quinoa, other kind of stuff. When I paid that $2,500, you better put that ice cream down and you better get up out this bed at 6 o'clock in the morning and go running. So it becomes that. That's one. Two, some women are ready to let go of the story. And this is the thing. I only work with high achieving women, because if you show a high achieving woman the obstacle, because we can go in circles and we know that something is holding us back. We just can't see what it is. Once you illuminate what it is, they're gonna run through a wall, because that's what we do. We're gonna take action on what we can see. And so it is a process. And so the freedom and the marriages and the health and the money typically comes within the first 8 weeks, the first 8 to 12 weeks. It don't take that long. We ain't got all day. I'm not trying to coach y'all forever. I want y'all to be free. So I had a client who stuttered. She stuttered. She had high blood pressure and she had endometriosis. And I told her in the first call, you're not going to stutter when this is done. She's been stuttering since she was 3. She had endometriosis for 8 years. She don't have that no more. 8 weeks later of peeling it all back, she don't have high blood pressure. I didn't even know she had high blood pressure and endometriosis, but she don't have that anymore, and she don't stutter. So when we're on the calls and in the group calls and we're talking about the follow-up or whatever, women be like this, what? This chick used to stutter? She don't stutter no more. So
what was it? Stress-induced? Nervousness, anxiety?
It was all stress. Even in her childhood, she was like put in pageants and stuff like that. That's stressful for kids. So she just carried all of that baggage and that weight throughout her whole life, which created the endometriosis and the high blood pressure. So once we relieved her of that and got her clear on, this is what I really think about myself. Does that make sense? Like the truth will set you free. We're not willing to tell the truth. We want to run from it, but the truth is incontrovertible. So it's not as hard as you think it is. It's actually a process, because a person who is free can teach you how to become free. And I do these LinkedIn lives on Fridays because I produce fruit. By your fruits you shall know them. I produce women who are just as happy. We all glow. We look completely different. We look 20 years younger. They got their money. Like I'm showing you, this is what we do. It's not about the money, Angelina, but we want our money too. So I would prefer you save your marriage and get your health in order. Then we're going to get the money. You can have it all. We don't have to choose. And we think that as women in leadership that we have to choose, and you don't have to.
So what is do you have 2 different programs, or is this all one program? Because it sounds like you have one program where you're helping them get raises and more money.
It's the same thing. It's just one.
It's okay. Okay.
So one lady in particular, as I posted it on Monday, she went from 210 to 635,000. And so she said that she showed up in the interviews confident in who she was. She knew exactly who she was. She can articulate how great she is without shrinking. She can tell them what she's demonstrated, and she sits in peace. In her confidence, she's not fighting. She said she talked to 25 people. And when they got to the end, they were like, oh my God, they loved this chick, loved her. And so they were like, we've always got negative feedback. So they're like, tell us what y'all don't like. Everybody liked it. And then one person said, okay, well, if you want something, I think that she's too confident. So they came back and said, one person, a negative input that we got was they said that you were too confident. She said, if my confidence bothers you, that's a problem for me. I'm not going to step into an environment where my confidence is a problem. They was like, no, we're good. Take this money and come on here. Does that make sense? Once a woman gets clear on who she is, we don't have to fight, Angelina. The problem is we're fighting them because we're fighting ourselves. We're fighting them because we don't think that they're going to give us permission to be great. We're fighting them because we don't think that they can handle our strength. We're fighting them because we don't know who we are, and we're going round and around and around and around and around trying to convince them of who we are. We don't even know who we are. But once you know who you are and you own it with peace and grace, and you walk in a room and you tell them what you've done, they will pay you for it. We've tripled 3 women's incomes in the past 2 weeks. It's amazing. And we saved the marriage and got the woman back in her body so she could be present with her kids. The byproduct was the money and the job.
So what about the woman who doesn't necessarily want to stay in corporate? Do you help them transition into being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, but this is the thing. You're selling a product and the product is you. So I
Mhm.
always tell women, if you and I did it, I wrote an article on it. Do not leave your good job for entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship requires 120% brain capacity to get your business off the ground. And I learned the hard way because I left crazy, right? And entrepreneurship requires brain power. I didn't have brain power because I was burned out. I had nothing. So once you're healthy and you're healed and you have the capacity to be able to be like, okay, well now I can adequately launch a successful business. Then I say leave your job. But a lot of times, Angelina, is not the job that's the problem. How women are showing up in the job is the problem. It's not the job that's the conflict. Like a lot of times the boss that you hate the most or the coworker that you have the most conflict with is really about something from your past that was left unresolved. Like I have a lady who was talking about how, how she always had challenges with executive women. And like in every job for 30 years, I was like this. I already knew she had a toxic mama. I knew it. And she did. So you're carrying that negative female energy with you that was ingrained in childhood. Of course, you're going to have conflict with all the women in your office.
Mhm. That's interesting. I gotta say, I've been there. Where I was like, from job to job, I kept having the same issue. And I'm like, why do I keep having this same issue? And I had to come to the reality that there's something you're supposed to learn. There's something you're supposed to change within yourself. Until you
Yeah.
change and until you face what it is that you're supposed to become, you're going to keep having this same issue. And so
Yeah.
I had to realize, and one of my things was being micromanaged. I didn't like being micromanaged.
Yeah.
And one of the things with being micromanaged is I didn't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
I didn't like you coming over and trying to tell me how to do stuff, tell me what to do. And I had to, go back to, why do I think that way? What is the problem do I have with that? And I mean, and it's not that I want to be micromanaged now, but the approach of dealing with it is different, to the point where it's not upsetting me. It's not getting me stressed out. I'm not getting mad, and I can still be able to work with this person, realizing who they are. And sometimes it's about knowing why they are the way they are. The person micromanaging me, I end up realizing it was not about me. I'm taking it personally, and it's not even about me. It's about what she needs to deal with, and the things that she needs to become because of her past, of why she micromanages. So I've had to go through that whole little cycle of realizing who I was, and then being able to see people for who they are, so that I can take myself out of the situation and not take it personally, so I can be able to still build this relationship and be able to work together. Now my relationship with this person at work is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I love working with her,
Mm-hmm.
all because I made that own shift within myself.
It all starts with you. Florence Scovel Shinn says, when you don't have a reaction to an inharmonious situation, there is no situation. Mm.
Mm.
When you don't react to an inharmonious situation, there is no situation. The problem is we reacting. And so
Yeah.
my last book is called Trauma Default. And the last chapter or concept that I created, and that's going to be my follow-on to my next book, is your childhood trauma fighting their childhood trauma.
Yes.
Your wounded child fighting their wounded child. And
Yep.
so some people feed off of conflict and they come to test you, because people who are in pain like to inflict pain. So we are wide open because we're wounded when we get to senior leadership. You don't show up to senior leadership riding on the magic carpet.
Right.
Women and women of color, by the time we get to the leadership table, we are wounded and bleeding and wonder why the shark's coming to eat us up. So if somebody say something to you, you already 2 clicks from crazy. And then you give it to them, and then you get caught in this psychological battle that brings you down, that drags you down to HELL, because you arguing with somebody who's clearly in pain. Your insanity means their insanity. And once you get sane, once you get whole and you don't react to their insanity, they just gonna go harass somebody else.
Yeah. And that's what happened.
She's harmonious with you. She beefing with somebody else because she couldn't inflict her pain on you.
That is so true. It's happening. We're cool. Someone else is now having to
exactly
to deal
with her trauma.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you mentioned the book. I know you've written several books, so you are also an author. I want you to kind of tell us about your books, and then I want you to tell us where can they find you and find out more about your coaching program as well as the books that you've written.
Okay. Trauma Default, my favorite book of all time. It's my latest book. It's so good. But Trauma
Why is
Default,
that your favorite? Now, how many books have you written?
I've written 15, I published 9.
Okay. Why is this one your favorite?
Trauma Default is really about getting clear on who you are and how you're showing up and how to come out of it. So it's I talk about it's your birthright to be rich, unleash your infinite possibilities, and how people in pain create pain. And it got a lot of scriptures in it, which I love, because I love to quote the Bible the way that I see it, not from the way that the limited perspective that other people talk about it. But really, it's about once you get clear on and own where you are, then you can break the trauma cycle for yourself and not be the victim and get your money. So that's why I love it. It's how do you get a clear vision of your future by breaking the trauma cycle of your past. So a lot of women that I talk to don't even know where they're going because they're so stuck in what happened and where what happened back in the day that you can't focus on your past and your future at the same time. It's impossible. You can't see both of them. So either you start going here about what shoulda, woulda, coulda, da 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 da, or you can turn around and just be like this. You know what? This is where I'm going. So that's why it's my favorite book. So you can get that on Amazon. All my books are on Amazon, and it's amazing. It's my favorite book. It's so good. It's so good.
So tell the people where can they find you and get more information.
You can get my free case study. I changed the name of it, but it's how to get a 30% raise by working less and without getting another degree. And that's on Change Now with Christy, Christy, changenowwithchristy.com. So if you go to that, you'll be able to get the case study. You can check out what I do. You can check out my testimonials. So that's the best way to reach me. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, where I post most of my content. Instagram would be also amazing. So that's it.
So to close this out, I like to always ask everyone, what was the lesson or golden nugget that you've learned that Christy Rutherford now would tell Christy Rutherford at 16 to hold on to help her?
Don't let go of your weirdness. It's your greatness unrealized. Don't let go of, and don't let people tell you what you should like and what makes you happy. You know exactly what you like and what makes you happy. So just honor how you want to feel and everything else will fall into place.
Love it. All right, we're going to close this out. And as always, I want to tell you where you are is not where you have to be. Your past doesn't define you. You define you. So heal, transform, and pursue you.